Is it unusual for property owners like yourself to work closely with the Border Patrol here?
Most of the rancher friends out here really appreciate the Border Patrol a lot. We love to have them here. Now, I have a front gate that I have locked whenever no one's home, and I have a Border Patrol lock on it. So, and the Border Patrol agents in this area know that whether I'm home or not, they are free to come through my property. And if I'm not home, that gate's locked, but of course it's a Border Patrol lock, so they know the combination and they can come through. And then I have an identical lock on my back gate, which allows them, if they need to go out my back gate and follow the only road that goes back into the mountains. So that gives them access to there. And one that I find probably quite interesting happened a number of years ago. I don't remember the exact date, 6, 7 years ago, something like that. I was leaving my property when I got to my mailbox on Ghost Town Trail, which is a very remote dirt road running north and south out here east, or rather north of Douglas, about 30 miles. I spotted a large pickup going north on Ghost Town Trail at my mailbox, and it had a big camper on the back, and I was unable to see what was in the back of the camper. I saw 3 Hispanics sitting in the cab of the pickup. But I noticed as it passed me, that as it went in front of me, that it had lettering on the side of it, of these little magnetic signs that you can buy, and it was telling what company it belonged to, even the business number, and even a telephone number, and it was from Tucson. But 2 of the words were misspelled. And the whole thing, this was 6 o'clock in the morning. And for a vehicle of this type with these 3 Hispanics sitting in the front that I had never seen before, with all these discrepancies on the side, going past my mailbox out here in this remote area was extremely unusual. So I pulled in behind it at a discreet distance, and then I noticed that the sign had said a business out of Tucson, but the telephone number that it listed didn't look right to me. So I tried to call it on my cell phone, and it was a Phoenix number. So not only had they misspelled some words, they'd really messed up on the telephone number as well. So at this point, I knew I had a load of illegals in front of me. So I called the Wilcox Border Patrol Station because we were headed generally in that direction, and we were in the area that they worked. And this was back in the days when they were greatly understaffed. They didn't have nearly as many agents out here as they do now. And the reply I got was, "Mr. Humphries, we're really sorry, we don't have anybody at all in your area. Now, if this vehicle gets to I-10 and turns east and heads towards us, then we'll get somebody to stop it for you. Otherwise, we just can't." Well, I stayed behind it, and it got to I-10 and turned west, headed for Tucson. Well, I knew that Wilcox Station had a checkpoint on Highway 92 out in the area of Benson, and we were headed in that general direction. So I thought perhaps I could get some assistance from the people manning the checkpoint. So I called, and I got the same reply. They simply had no one that could break loose to check out this suspect vehicle I was following. So I called the Department of Public Safety. I used to be a member, a law enforcement officer with the Department of Public Safety, hoping I could get some help from some of their highway patrolmen. And those were back in the days, regrettably, when the Department of Public Safety, their highway patrol division, simply didn't want to have anything to do with illegal immigration. The reply I got, "Mr. Humphries, if a traffic offense is being committed, or if you see some serious defects with the vehicle, then we could get somebody to stop it. Otherwise, we can't." So that was the end of that. So now we're past Benson, headed towards Tucson. So I called the Tucson Border Patrol Station, and I got an agent there, and he said he would help me and that he would keep in touch with me telephonically. So I relaxed. I thought, that's a good thing. By this time, the driver of this vehicle that I was following was aware that I was not what he wanted me to be. I think he'd actually seen me in his rearview mirror, probably on my cell phone. But he would slow way down, and I would slow way down and keep my distance. He would speed up, and I would speed up and stay with him. He actually a couple of times pulled off the freeway and stopped, and a discreet distance away, I pulled off and stopped. So he knew what I was up to, but he couldn't shake me. So we got to Tucson, and I'm waiting for this Border Patrol agent that said he was going to help me to show up, and no one. We go all the way through Tucson, and now we're headed for Casa Grande. I found out later that this Border Patrol agent really wanted to help me, but he had neglected to realize that he had to call a area code other than Tucson to reach me, so he was unable to contact me. So now we're headed for Casa Grande. And I call the Casa Grande Border Patrol Station, and I get an answer from the female agent in charge, And I explained the situation to her, and she said, Mr. Humphries, we are up to RA and alligators, processing a great many illegals that we arrested the night before. But I don't care. If I have to stop this vehicle myself, I'll do it for you. I said, great. So we get to Casa Grande. Well, now Casa Grande is about 150 miles or more from where I started following this vehicle. Well, we got to Casa Grande, and I don't see any Border Patrol vehicle. And we're leaving the area, and I think, oh my gosh, we're headed for Phoenix. But here comes the Border Patrol vehicle from one of the exits, and this lady that I talked to on the phone is driving it, and she has a mail agent with her to assist her, and they pull this pickup over, and I pull in front of it to make sure it can't change its mind and leave, and they got 16 illegals out of it. And so the whole trip was worthwhile. We prevented 16 illegals, which is a minor number, of course, but it's a pretty interesting story because of the miles involved and all the people that I talked to try to help us.
Now, the story comes more recent than that. That's many years ago. Border Patrol was very understaffed at the time. Today, the Border Patrol numbers are up. Public safety works along, and Arizona works along with the Border Patrol. But recently, within the past few months, you had a couple of incidents within 24 hours of each other. Can you relate those?
You're right, yeah. It had gotten dark, and I was here alone with my daughter, my 14-year-old daughter, and my dog started barking very seriously. So I looked out the window, and I saw what direction they were facing barking, and I took a really close look, and off in the distance a little bit, where I have a big trailer park, I saw this face peering towards the house, and that's what the dog was barking about. Well, I knew it had to be an illegal alien. That's, you know, you call me profiling or whatever you want to call me. Out here, it had to be that. So I called the Border Patrol on my cell phone. And a few minutes later, I heard a knocking on my front door. And it was the person that I had seen the face of back by my trailer. And it was a female, Hispanic female. And she was not injured, but she was quite distraught, very upset. And I let her in, and my daughter set her on the couch, and we gave her a glass of water. And then she saw the cell phone in my hand. And she came over to me, and she got down on her knees and reached up and grabbed my arms with tears running down her face, said, "Por favor, señor, no Border Patrol, por favor." She was begging me not to call the Border Patrol. But then she saw that I obviously already had called the Border Patrol. She bolted out the front door and disappeared into the darkness. Just a few minutes later, Border Patrol showed up because I had already called them. And they had 2 agents with a dog. And they got busy, and they tracked her, it turns out, all the way back to my mailbox, which is a mile away from my house. But they lost her tracks there. But luckily, the following morning, 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning, they did find her over on Highway 191, which was probably 8 miles from here. So she was all right. They saved her. It turns out that she had been part of a group that was in a vehicle that the Border Patrol was chasing in the little ghost town of Cortland, and the vehicle overturned. And the Border Patrol agents thought that they had captured everyone that was in that vehicle that overturned, but they obviously didn't see her when she escaped and got to my house because she obviously had been part of that overturned vehicle. So that was that one. And then the following afternoon, actually, it was still daylight, I noticed a commotion down by my front gate, which is several hundred yards in front of my house. And I went down to check it out, and here was a vehicle that was empty, that had veered off my driveway. When I got to my front gate, it saw that the front gate was closed and it couldn't get through. So it had veered off, and it got to my fence, and luckily didn't go through my fence, but it stopped right there. And right behind it was a vehicle, a Border Patrol vehicle with 1 agent in it, and he had been following it. And when this small vehicle, it looked like a 2-door something or other, had seen that they could go no further because of my fence, thank God, instead of crashing through it, they stopped and they bailed out and ran off on foot. And so this Border Patrol agent waited for a backup. And when his backup got there, they got all attired properly and took off on foot, following the 8 illegals that had piled out of the vehicle and had taken off running towards the mountains. And shortly after that, a couple of Border Patrol supervisors showed up, and I let them through my back gate, which is the only access vehicle-wise back into the area. And that's so they could perhaps assist their 2 agents that were on foot. And I found out the following day that these agents tracked these 8 illegals for probably 7 hours back up into the Dragoon Mountains, and they ended up catching 7 out of the 8. We'll never know what happened to the 8, but they did get them. Well, I built the tower primarily because I got tired of my dogs barking furiously at 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock in the morning, sometimes 3 or 4 nights a week, without me knowing what they were barking at. And it may have been pretty serious. And so I built this tower. It's a 30-foot tower, and it matches my house. It's made out of the same burnt adobe that my house is, so it looks like it was probably built when the house was built. And it's 10 by 10. It's a reasonable size, and it's 30 feet tall. And the access to it is from my master bedroom. So if I hear my dogs raising heck now in the middle of the night, I just get out of bed and go up the spiral staircase into the top room, where I have a police scanner, a radio, a telephone, night vision equipment, and a window on all 4 sides. So there's a wonderful vision, access to see everything. And so now when my dogs have me worried, I many times can get up there and see what they're barking at, which helps a lot. And I call Border Patrol from there, and they respond almost always to help me. But in addition to that, I've let Border Patrol know that if I'm home, because I can't leave my home unlocked when I'm not here, so they can't get into my house if I'm not here. But if I am home, they are free to go up and use my tower, which they've done several times. When they've had a vehicle load of illegals where the illegals have bailed out, they call it quailing, when the illegals have quailed from the vehicle. And run out into the desert. Sometimes it's handy for the Border Patrol to be able to climb up in my tower and with their vision equipment try to locate the illegals that have run away from the vehicle. So yeah, I've been out here 22 years now, and I have a really, well, I'm an ex-cop, that's part of it, I'm sure, but I have a really good relationship with the Border Patrol agents, and I love to see them out here. It's a big sigh, I heave a big sigh of relief when I see the Border Patrol agents in the area.
He wrote this to me after our interview. A number of figs have ripened, and they are the biggest, sweetest, and most delicious ones I've ever tasted. I had 3 illegals show up at my back gate last week in need of water. I called the Border Patrol before letting them in and allowing them to fill up their water jugs, and then engaged them in conversation under my front porch while I awaited the arrival of the agents. They were from Mexico City, on their way to Phoenix to join family members. They had been part of a group of 8, but upon being abandoned by the coyote they had hired to bring them across, the other 5 illegals had taken off by themselves, and their location was unknown. After about 20 minutes, they became antsy and headed off down my driveway towards my mailbox. I got up in my tower and once again called Border Patrol to advise them of the location of the illegals and to find out why it was taking the agents so long to get here. I maintained a visual of the 3 illegals until they went out of sight pretty close to my mailbox, and I let the dispatcher know that. In spite of that, the agents, who showed up about 10 minutes later, drove right past them and came to my house. Obviously, the illegals had heard or seen the agents approaching and ducked under cover, probably in the wash. If I had been allowed better communication with the agents to ensure they knew to look for the illegals near my mailbox, they almost certainly would have caught them. As it is, all 3 of them are probably in Phoenix now. Sincerely, Richard Humphries.